is a real treat for us. We have had award-winning speakers come out of our Toastmaster group in the past. This time, District 55, I think, is our district, but Yvonne comes from a different Toastmaster club, and I told you she's going to be practicing. She's going to be introduced by the current president of our Toastmaster group, Dave Morgenthaler.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It's a great pleasure to introduce Yvonne Young. I can't say enough about her at all, other than the fact she's still recovering from shock, and I'll get to that in a minute. How big is District 55 is the current district of Toastmasters? It stretches essentially from Williamson County to Corpus Christi down to the Rio Grande Valley. And that's a big chunk of area. I don't know how many clubs are in that area, but Yvonne Young had to go up through a level of competition. At the club level, the clubs compete. The winners of the club level go to an area competition, and in turn, those winners will go to a divisional competition. So there are 3 levels in order to win what is the district champion of public speaking. Yvonne Young has been in Toastmasters for 8 years. And the reason she's in shock is because this was her first year to compete in a speech competition, and she won. And she still can't believe it. So I'm hoping we can help her to believe it. In any case, I'd like to welcome Yvonne Young with a speech title, Life's Cafe. Life's Cafe, Yvonne Young.
Imagine if every decision you made, you selected from a menu in Life's Cafe. There would be no prices listed because we never really know the price of our decisions. We only know that one way or another, that price will be paid. Mr. Toastmaster, distinguished guests, welcome to Life's Cafe. Anything you can imagine is available for your selection. You can come anytime because the cafe is open 24 hours a day. I would offer a word of advice. When looking at your options, you might be a little careful because some of them are pretty costly. You may have already made a decision or two that were costlier than you imagined. I know I have. It was in my early teens. I was the youngest of 19. And even though I was a straight A student in school, I was invisible at home. One day I was pouring my heart out to my mom. Well, actually, I was pouring my head out because I was all caught up in my thoughts. When my dad walked in and said, "You'll always be book smart, but you'll never have common sense." And he walked away. I had no idea what that meant. I only knew it really hurt. And I chose to be offended. That's when I discovered Life's Cafe. I also chose a healthy helping of pride to go with my choice to be offended. I'll show him, I thought, and I ran away from home. I had friends 200 miles away in Detroit, so I moved in with them. I tried staying in school for a while. Eventually, I dropped out. Finally, I was free. I stayed up late every night. I slept in every morning. It was great. And then I met my Prince Charming, and we fell in love. We moved in together, and the emotional roller coaster began. 2 children, marriage, and job changes. It was exhilarating. It was exhausting. And it all came to an abrupt stop on my 21st birthday, when he gave me divorce papers. There I was, 21 years old, no job, no education, and now no husband. What I had were 3 babies under the age of 5. This was not supposed to happen. And I realized it was exactly what I had chosen. What was I supposed to do now? Pride was not going to allow me to go home, so I went back to Life's Cafe. I saw some people selecting government help, so I did too. I applied for government aid, and I was put in no-income housing, and I was given coupons that I could use to buy food. Those coupons would not buy diapers or soap or shampoo. So I illegally traded them with my neighbor for cash. And I knew I was not going to raise my children this way. I went back to Life's Cafe with determination. And this time I chose success. Choosing success meant I had to find something to meet all of my needs. I needed a home, I needed a job, and I needed it now. There was one option that did not hurt my pride, but it was pretty tough to swallow. The military. Joining the military meant I had to sign over custody of my children to their father. And I discovered I had faith because it was all I had left. I had to have faith that my children were going to be there when I was finished. I had to have faith that he wasn't going to run off with them, and I had to have faith that he was going to keep his word. Once in the military, I discovered self-discipline. Some, not much. It was 6 long months before I was eligible for free government housing. And I went back for my children. He looked at me and he said, "I'm sorry, I have custody. You have visitation. Unless you'd like to get remarried." Let me think. It could work, right? We're friends. Sure, why not? So we got married. Only it didn't work. Good surprise, right? In less than 2 years, we were divorced again, for good. Being a single parent in the military was not easy, but it was worth it. I was able to finish my education, not just my GED, not just a bachelor's degree, but all the way to a master's degree in computer science. The whole time raising my children in a safe environment with morals, standards, and values. When the military asked me to serve overseas alone, back to the cafe I went. This time I selected my children, and I was given an honorable discharge. I was not empty-handed this time. The military had given me skills, and I had my college degree. I was able to get a professional job with a top company, and finally, at the age of 33, I purchased our very first home. A 2-story, 4-bedroom, 2,500 square foot home. We would never be homeless again. It took me 17 years to pay the price for my childish decisions. And I did it. And I found my common sense. I have learned that when you trade your pride for determination, when you choose to be humble instead of choosing to be offended, dreams can be born. Visions can be fulfilled. So here I am, back in the cafe with all of you. What are you hungry for? Are you hungry for some more education? Leadership and public speaking? Or maybe you're ready to just relax and take life easy. Wherever you begin, whatever you select, may your choices today bear fruit for your vision of tomorrow.
My part of the presentation is called 5 words that can apply to almost anything. Okay, maybe 3. But I heard these words during a radio interview with Norman Lear. I heard him on the radio coming into work today. Who knows who Norman Lear is? Archie Bunker. Okay, he is still active, still working, just has a new show coming out now. He was the producer, the creator of All in the Family, one of the all-time iconic series that first got America talking about issues that nobody was ever talking about. So it was everybody's favorite. So I heard him say these words in an interview, and we'll get to what the words are in just a minute. All right. So really, these words can apply to anything? Yes. These words, I believe, I've been thinking all week long of different scenarios where these words will work, and they work well. And I'm thinking that we should all just needlepoint them on things and have them all over our houses, sticky notes, whatever, tattoos. They will apply to good things, successes. Think about these 5 words. They'll also apply after bad things happen. Sad things happen. These words can apply there as well. Kids starting school, these words can apply. Isn't that a cute little picture? Oh, you can't see it very well, but okay. Kids starting school, the words can apply. Thanksgiving dinner. After you have prepared a Thanksgiving dinner, these words can apply. What do those things have in common? Kids starting school and a Thanksgiving dinner? You'll see. All right, a job loss. How do all those things fit in the same category? These words can apply after a job loss. I'm sorry, I know you were hoping that this would be a safe zone where you would not have to be reminded of what's going on in the world. But after the primary elections, when these became our candidates, these words can apply. After a wedding, these words can apply. After a divorce, how can that happen? How can these words apply to all of these disparate situations? How can that even happen? Filling out a job application. How can these words apply to that sort of thing? In a job search, these words are utilized all the time. And these words can help you move forward with a smile on your face. These words can help you be successful no matter what situation we're talking about. A blank screen. Okay, that brings us to Norman Lear. So in this interview that I heard, and that's Norman, in case you want to put a face to that. He's a little dark, but there you go. So I know you're wondering what are the words. So he was interviewed, and they were talking about the incredible success of Archie Bunker. And those are 2 iconic. How many of you, I'm sure there are some young people here who have no idea what any of this is. How many of you have never heard of All in the Family, Archie Bunker, none of that? You don't even know what I'm talking about with this TV show. Really? Really? Well, good. We all have a universal reference, so that's good. So this, of course, was the one on the left was the original All in the Family cast, and then the spin-off show, the follow-up show, ended up being the Jeffersons. Mr. Jefferson moved on up and joined the middle class and moved in the same neighborhood as Archie Bunker, world's first open racist. And so that was an interesting show as well. So he was the creator of all of that fun stuff. And apparently after these, there was another series that he had. I don't even know what that was, but it was not successful. So he had this string of successes, and then the next show that he came up with was canceled. And they said, "How did you feel after that cancellation?" And he said, "You know, I've had an attitude all my life that was, it's over. What's next?" That was really his. It was just those 2. It's over. What's next? It's over. Next. It's over. Next. And I decided to insert lessons learned. It's over. Lessons learned. What's next? And you can apply that sequence to anything, and it psychologically helps you just shut the door on whatever was before. You're a Phi Beta Kappa 4.0 student. Well, that was fabulous. That was a huge, huge success. That's over. Now, what's next? Are you going to translate that same success and carry it over, transition that to your next success? Are you going to be a lifetime learner? How are you going to use that part and apply it to the future? That's over. Now define yourself. Some people define themselves by their past successes, and they never get beyond that. I was Miss Alabama, 40 years ago, and that's the only thing I've done. Miss Alabama. Not that that's such an accomplishment, but I was not really. I'm just making that up. I was not Miss Alabama. I know you find that hard to believe, but I was not Miss Alabama. But the point is, sometimes we have huge successes in our early life, and we milk those successes. We live in that world of success, and that's what defines us for the rest of our lives because we never do anything else. That's over. What's next? What are you going to do now that's interesting? What are you going to do now that's successful? What are you going to do now that's an accomplishment? Because that's over. It's done. Next. Sometimes something horrible has happened. Just like the dreams, the lessons learned. Her whole presentation was on lessons learned. So this was a mistake. What did I learn from that? Sometimes people get caught up in what's over, the past, was a disaster. They never get beyond that. That's their excuse for the rest of their life. That defines them for the rest of their life. And they have no hope. They have no aspirations. And they have no success. They stay locked into that negative world that happened a long time ago. The most negative client that I have ever worked with, for the longest time, I first met him when we started Launchpad, really. I first met him I think in 2001. He has not had a job in his career field, a steady job in his career field since that time. And I believe that it's all because he is locked in the negativity of the past. That layoff, that he never forgave his boss for laying him off. He says he has helped other people through the years, and they have never helped him. He has been bitter and negative and accusative, I don't know which is the proper word there, but he has blamed other people for his failure all of these years. And he is locked in the past, and the past for him, after a lot of success in that job, then his past, that termination became that failure. He has never been able to get beyond that. So that's over. That's over. What's next? That's over. Put that behind you. Don't think about it. Don't stew over it. Don't live in that toxic mental world that you have created for yourself. It's done. It's okay. Did you learn any lessons from that experience? Anything that's going to help you make more success in the future? Got any lessons out of that? I'm hoping. It was a long time. You had a lot of success. What'd you learn? And then what's going to be the next adventure? So it's over. Lessons learned. Next. And you have to say next like that. You have to say next like a little child says next. What's next? I can't wait. What's next? What's next? What's going to be my next job? Oh, I hope I like it. What's going to be my next job? What's going to be my next adventure? What's going to happen on my next birthday? You know, next, and it has to be with anticipation. I can't wait. I can't wait for what's going to happen tomorrow. Every day you need to wake up and say, I'm going to meet 3 new people today, and at least one of them is going to say something that's going to be interesting or helpful or inspiring. I can't wait. I got to get out of bed. I got to get dressed. I got to go. I got to meet some people. See what it's going to be. What's next? That has to be. You have to color in the lines of what's next with something something that's optimistic, something that's hopeful, that it's going to be good, and then make reality make that happen. The what's next is the really important part. The lessons learned, yeah, that's important. But the what's next, I think, is the best part of all. Sometimes people just live in the past. You worked your way up to being a director, an executive in a job, and you can't get beyond that because that was the life that you worked for all your career. And now if that's over, it's like, well, everything else is going to be less. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Maybe it's going to be different. You might not have that title. You might not have that salary. But it could be that it's going to be way more exciting. Can't wait. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? What's next? Remember the past, but don't live there. Don't live in the past. Because it's over. The past is over. Lessons learned. If you live but you don't learn, what's the point of that? What's the point of that? We should be learning lessons every day. What's working for us, what's not working for us. What are the costs of that decision? So every single experience that you have should teach you something. There is a person, we do mock interviews every Thursday at the workforce office. And somebody asked this question and I just loved it, and so I've only used it 2 other times. But I think it's an interesting exercise, it's an interesting series of questions that we should all ask ourselves. And the question was, tell me about something you learned in your very first job that you had that you were able to apply to the next job. So you think about, what was your first job? What was your first job? Who can tell me, what was your first job? Okay, Margaret?
I worked for Baskin Robbins scooping ice cream.
So did my son.
I love that job. My favorite job.
He was terrorized by his boss. Okay, and yours was dishwashing?
Dishwasher at a Holiday Inn restaurant.
Dishwasher at a Holiday Inn restaurant. Wow.
Worked at a restaurant like Arby's, and the supervisor said the customer's always right.
Ah, that's what you learned. That was your lesson learned. What was your first job?
Babysitter for mom.
Babysitter for mom. I bet the pay was great. Yeah. What was your first job?
I was an ice cream scooper at Russell's Ice Cream in Holland Mall.
I see a match. I see a match. Okay, what was your first job?
In a bowling alley,
Doing what?
before everything was automated, I'd reset the pin.
You were the pin setter.
Yeah.
Replaced by automation. Okay. So you think back to your first job. One of the things that we frequently learn from our first job is, I'm never doing this again. I know, I'm going to college. I'm going to college because I am never doing this again. But at any rate, what did you learn in your first job? And usually our first job teaches us work ethic, the relationship between management and staff, sometimes customer service, showing up on time, being dependable. All of those little life lessons. What did you learn? What did you learn on the second job you had that you were able to apply to the third job? What's the second job? Dave, what's the second job you had? Dishwasher to, I'm hoping it went up.
I swept streets and emptied garbage at Six Flags in Texas and Arlington.
Okay, your career path was... All right, so he swept streets and emptied garbage at Six Flags in Texas. But what a cool place to work. All right, so the dishwasher job, plus you're outside.
Yeah, we didn't slip on the floor because there was no matting down, so you were always having to hold on to the dishwashing.
Oh my gosh, so it was the dishwashing job, no, it was slippery floors, so it was a health risk, and oh my God, it was dangerous. All right, so you definitely moved up with the trash job at Six Flags. Plus, Six Flags, so cool, fun place to work, right? All right, so what did you learn on the second job that I did, the third job, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? The person that I asked that of at mock interview practice was one of the very best mock interviews that we ever had. She was a zookeeper. She's my only zookeeper. I've never had a zookeeper except for her. And ultimately, she mock interviewed for 4 times for 4 different jobs. She's finally managing a zoo in Florida. But the first time she mock interviewed, that question was an extensive question, went on a long time, and she was fabulous at answering that sequence. And it was like, well, when I went to this zoo, I had moved up into a supervisory position, so I learned how to manage people. I had direct reports for the first time, and so I learned how to motivate, how to evaluate, how to interview effectively. I learned that it's more than just the job skills, it's also the cultural fit. I learned how to ask questions in order to uncover that kind of information. What did you learn at the next job? The next job, I was the director, and I had to form partnerships with different organizations within the community. So I learned how to work collaboratively, and I learned how to adapt presentations to my audience, and I learned how to, each job enhanced her skill set, and it was fascinating to hear how cleverly she was able to identify that growing toolkit of skills as she progressed through her work history. So at any rate, it's an interesting exercise to do. What were your lessons learned throughout the workplace? And sometimes if you've had a bad fit, a bad experience, you might have gotten terminated. You might have had your very first personality conflict. You might have had lots of disagreements with your boss. Even those times taught you things. It taught you things that life's not always fair. It taught that sometimes no matter what you try to do to foment a successful outcome, it doesn't always work. Sometimes you learn that it's more important to be happy in your work than it is to be successful, perhaps. You might have learned that your health is not worth staying with a job that is too stressful. Sometimes good lessons can come from bad experiences as well. But there should always be lessons learned. And then the most important part, of course, is what's going to be next. When you're unemployed, when you lose a job, this is a watershed time. It's a time out. And it's a time when you shouldn't just automatically be scrambling around hysterically trying to get another paycheck. I know that's so heavy in your mind that you need money, you need an income. But take some time to think about what do you want to be next? Do you have a career path? Have you ever sat down and planned your career? Where is it that you want to end up? And is that still the case? Do you want to have a linear ascendancy to your next job? You want to stay doing exactly what you did before? Or should you make some adjustments to that? Should maybe you adjust your goal to being over here? Because that one wasn't so much fun after all. And maybe the changing economy, maybe the changing the numbers, industries come and go, the companies come and go, skill sets become obsolete. Is this the time for you to go back to school and become something else? Is this the time for you to join the circus, get on that trapeze? You know, is this the time for you to do that transgender thing that you always have really wanted to be? You know, I don't know. What is the change that you want to make? And maybe that was not a good example, but you should do that anyway. But what is going to be your next direction? And if you're open to anything, then that means that you still have to get out of your house. You need to go to things, go to places that you wouldn't normally go. Go to different kinds of movies, different kinds of conferences, different kinds of networking activities. Join some meetups and allow yourself to be buffeted by the winds of what's out there, and just see if you meet somebody or hear something or read something in a book that says, right, I don't want to be that anymore. This is where I'm going now. I'm joining the Peace Corps. I'm going to Nepal. I'm learning how to roller skate. I don't care what it is. But be open and enthusiastic about whatever is next. I said it's 5 words, and perhaps in the spirit of efficiency, it could just be 3. And if it is just 3, it's sober, takeaway, and next. All right, even more.